Kazuha is a ridiculously fun character to play with and might just be the first one that I will crown. The shenanigans you can get up to with this character are numerous, and although he may have been intended and advertised to be more of a support, I for one use him as a main DPS. And judging by your comments, a whole lot of you do as well. Now mind you, my Kazuha is indeed at Constellation 6, and although he has one of the best constellation progressions in the game, with C6 pretty much doubling his damage, contrary to what seems like common belief at this point, C6 is far from necessary to use the character in this capacity. In fact, although they're really nice, I don't believe you need any to pull it off. And with that, I would like to share with you one of my favorite Kazuha teams that is exceedingly free-to-play friendly. Hello kings, queens, and majesties, welcome to WhaleStat. I am SliceBotaku. With this build, we are going to be making Kazuha a beast of a cryo damage dealer. To do this, our team is going to be composed of Kazuha, obviously, Chongyun, Diona, and Xingqiu. And aside from Kazuha, all of these characters are 4 stars and have been made available to us on a multitude of occasions at this point. Now with Chongyun and Diona on the same team, we are able to benefit from cryo resonance, which means that so long as our enemies are frozen or affected by cryo, which will be all the time with this build, our characters will benefit from a 15% increase to their crit rates. Moving on to the specifics, we will firstly begin with the star of the show, CRYO himself. So if you have seen our previous video on Kazuha's synergy with Albedo, which you should totally check out if you haven't already, then you'll know that I tend to run the character with the Primordial Jade Cutter equipped. It provides a nice bump to our damage and a much appreciated increase to our crit rate. But on account of the aforementioned Cryo Elemental Resonance, I feel I can forgo this benefit in favor of Freedom Sworn for the sake of a higher elemental mastery, in addition to the 16% damage buff to our normal, charged, and plunge attacks, and 20% increase to our attack provided to our team upon the consumption of the sword sigils, which of course come from triggering elemental reactions, which is very much a given with Kazuha. Alternatively, for the sake of retaining that free-to-play model, we have a plethora of options by way of Iron Sting, the Black Sword, the Alley Flash, Favonius Sword, or Festering Desire. I am not opposed to any of these weapons, but I will say that unless you have 2 that are both built up, Sacrificial Sword should be off the table because we are going to need that elsewhere. Heading over to his artifacts, because I have changed my weapon here, my artifacts have also changed, albeit slightly. We will still be running our 4-piece Viridescent, but with Jade Cutter I would normally run crit damage for my Circlet, but because we did take a hit to our crit rate by changing our weapon, we will go with that instead and have our crit damage accumulate from our secondary artifact stats. But perhaps a bit less straightforward, we have the consideration of his Goblet. Now, I'd considered running him with a cryo damage one for the sake of this build, but because his elemental skill and burst are ultimately still Anemo, it's not really worth it to me. That being said, Swirl does not benefit from Anemo damage, nor can it crit, so if you were to instead prioritize Elemental Mastery, that would be completely valid. I for one just have not been lucky enough to get good artifacts on both ends of the spectrum just yet. So on top of that, my Sans is attack percentage. For secondary stats, attack percentage, crit rate, and crit damage are vital, as is the case for most main DPS characters, but beyond that, Elemental Mastery and Energy Recharge are wonderful to have as well. Now that about does it for Kazuha, so let us move on to Chongyun. So before we get into his items, we will talk about his kit because that elemental skill is the very reason he is here. With that, Chongyun strikes at the ground, creating an AoE of cryo damage that remains for 10 seconds. And while within its radius, all sword, claymore, and polearm users will have their weapons infused with cryo, this being the catalyst for our CRYO KAZUHA. But it doesn't stop there. Thanks to his passive, while we are in the field, our normal attack speed also increases by 8%. And finally, if you manage to get this character to Constellation 2, you will really have a fun time, as elemental skills and bursts used while within the radius will also have their cooldowns reduced by 15%. This is incredible, because it means we can spam our moves, generate particles, and repeat even faster. Now when it comes to his weapon, in terms of 5-star, we will want to be using Skyward Pride for that energy recharge, and the added damage to our burst can't hurt either. Alternatively, in the realm of 4 stars, we can go with Sacrificial Greatsword for our energy recharge as well, and the added comfort of knowing that our skill would be there for us when we need it to repeat our process. Now truthfully, this is a team that will be freezing a whole lot, and so Chongyun is actually not someone you want on the field unless it is to use his elemental skill or burst. So although some other claymores may be alluring, his hits will shatter the freeze and kinda ruin the fun. For artifacts, we will want to go with 2-piece Blizzard Slayer, 2-piece Gladiator. Thanks to his weapon, we should be looking pretty good on energy recharge, so for his sands we will want to have attack percentage. His goblet will serve us best as cryo damage, and for his circlet we want to go crit rate or crit damage, whichever you need more of. For me, I can definitely benefit from a bit of a higher crit rate, but I haven't been so lucky, and so I double dip in the attack percentage once more. But that's enough for Chongyun, it is time for Diona. I love this character to bits. She is to me the best when it comes to straight up healing, and we have a whole video on why, so if you're curious, check it out. But anyways, in regards to her weapon, this is a no-brainer. Sacrificial Bow is the only acceptable answer, and I don't think my Diona has ever touched any other weapon. To get her to change, it would need to be surgically removed at this point. That energy recharge is great and makes our uptime with all this even better, not to mention the skill refresh chance, which by way of refinement can get all the way up to 80%, so yeah, really good. But fine, if you don't have it, Favonius Warbow isn't bad either. When it comes to her artifacts, I usually go with 4-piece Maiden Beloved, but we're really not running her as much of a healer here, so I am a fan of 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. That way, when we use our elemental burst, the whole party will benefit from a 20% increase to attack. For her sands, we will want energy recharge, for her goblet, we will want cryo damage, and for her circlet, we will go healing bonus. Now thanks to one of Diona's passives, when shielded by way of her elemental skill, characters will receive a 10% increase to movement speed, which on top of that added normal attack speed from Chongyun is wonderful. But the real reason we love to have Diona here is her C6. As while within the radius of her burst with our health above 50%, we will benefit from a 200 point addition to Elemental Mastery, what is downright crazy on Kazuha, and of course leads to so much more damage, so we love it. And there really shouldn't be an instance in which we don't benefit from this, as Diona will be providing heals, shields, and Kazuha can just jump out of the way of any sort of danger. And now last but not least, we have the source of our freeze, Xingqiu. His elemental burst Rain Cutter, allowing for freeze reactions to occur even when he himself is not on the field, allowing our Kazuha to put in work. And because normal attacks trigger these, again the increase to normal attack speed provided to us by Chongyun is magnificent. And like Diona in regards to weaponry, there is to me only one choice for the character, and that is the Sacrificial Sword. This pretty much ensures that the uptime on his burst is damn near constant. When you need it, it will be there for you. For his artifacts, we will be using 2-piece Heart of Depth and 2-piece Noblesse Oblige. For his sands, we will want to have energy recharge, for his goblet we will have hydro damage, and for his circlet we will have attack percentage. All in all, this is honestly the most fun I have ever had with a freeze team, and so I hope this video serves you well. When it comes to substitutions, instead of Diona, if you don't have her at C6, go with Bennett, but do bear in mind that this will hinder your ability to maintain freeze, and you lose that bonus to crit rate as you will no longer possess an elemental resonance. If you really want to maintain that still, go with Kaya. And if for some reason you have Tartaglia and not Xingqiu, you can use him instead. And with that being said, if you're not looking to freeze necessarily and do want to open up the versatility of Chongyun's weapon choice, you can always head here to our previous video and replace Xingqiu with Albedo if you have him. Otherwise, Fischl is viable as well for that off-field damage and potential to superconduct. Now something else that's really cool about all this is that when Ayaka comes out, I presume a similar build will be pretty viable with her, although in that case Kazuha would sustain more of a support role with Ayaka leading the charge. But yeah guys, that about does it for the build. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you plan to try this one out or already do so, please let us know down below, and be sure to subscribe to Whalestat with notifications on, as we are only just getting started. I have been your host, Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.